All right, Chris and I have spent about 20 minutes catching up with each other. We haven't seen each other in a month, Christmas and New Year's. And we're talking about a lease to own, essentially what is a lease to own in Abilene, Texas. I think, Chris, it's fair to say both of us really like Abilene. We think it's got
Yeah,
the right community. It's big enough. It's probably can support a Longyards. And we're
right.
talking about 35 Pine Street in Abilene. I'm going to share my screen now. We can go
Right.
through it together.
Sure.
All right. You can see it okay?
Yes.
All right. So where are we at? Have we got sort of a agreement in principle with the landlord seller?
Yeah, we're actually have a call into them just to clear up, just make sure we're on the same page with some of the finer points that we have here. But as far as the price goes and everything like that, and the major details, they're pretty much ironed out.
Okay. All right. So is it in fact two separate pieces? Does it have two titles?
Right. So yeah, so they were selling these two plots. They're two technically different addresses, but I wanted to just tie it all up because I think the five would be better than just the four, and I'd rather get it all together. And they threw it in for a pretty good price.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna get to that here in a minute. All right, I'm gonna also put it into Google Maps because I've looked at it before, but I want to make sure I understand it exactly right. Fine.
Sure. And they actually put a good site plan on the exhibit at the end of this document that actually shows and
Let's see
highlights,
if it
which
was
is
in there
helpful.
because it was missing when when I saw version 6. So let's
Yep,
whip down here and see where it is. Very good.
there it
Okay,
is.
so there it
Yeah.
is. All right. So I remember there's a building here which is quite big. Was it 11,000 square feet or?
I don't know if it was quite that big. Let me pull it back. Yeah, I have it here. Where's the building again? It's about 3,600 square
Okay,
feet.
so I thought maybe there's another one you looked at that was bigger.
I
All right,
think, yeah, I should hear another one. Yeah.
and it's interesting. It includes this property here, and is this the additional property here?
That's right. Yes.
And it is a separate title.
Yes.
Okay, so when you purchase it, you make sure that these two properties go in slightly different names, right?
Yeah.
You
Right.
know why, right?
Refresh my memory. Actually, that's
Okay,
a good
because you
question.
want to make sure that under the Texas Planning Act, they're never automatically merged.
Okay.
In Ontario, if you bought these two properties in Ontario, and you had the same company own two of them,
Yeah.
under the Planning Act, they can eventually be merged without you having done anything. And having two separate titles means at some point in the future, if you wanted to, you could sell one and keep one, or you could finance one property and finance another one separately. They don't have to be financed
Separately.
together. You could have two
Okay.
mortgages instead of one.
Right. Okay.
So there are
Okay.
a lot of reasons why you'd want to keep them separate. So you might have the 1 acre parcel, or it's about 0.8 or 0.9 acres. You might have that in your personal name, and this one might be in the company name.
Dang. Okay, that makes
Right?
sense because you have more
So if
flexibility.
you don't mind, just write a note to yourself so you don't
Yeah.
forget,
Maybe I'll
okay?
do that. Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah.
So when I looked at the aerial photograph of this property, and I'm going to share the other screen with you just to make sure I get it. When I looked at this other photograph here, so we've got a building here. I'll just measure it again, just because I didn't remember how big it is. So this says, yeah, it's about 3,400 square feet, right?
Yeah.
And then there's another little building here. Can you see it?
Yes.
What is that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I'm chomping at the bit to get out there, but it's weird because in another picture, I feel like they might have taken it out, but
Yeah, it might be a shed, but anyway, if you don't
yeah,
mind, just take a note to yourself. What is
yeah,
that? It looks like a 100 square foot shed. I mean, I'll just measure it.
right.
So this one here is maybe it's 100 square feet. I don't know. So this one looks like, well, it might be 300 square feet. So it looks like a decent shed. And then what the hell is all of this over here?
Yeah, well, when you go to the front, it looks like if you click on that picture, yeah, like I think we might be able to see that. I guess it's just a little bit of the side office.
Yeah, it looks like a site office. It looks like a place that you'd see in Mexico where, you know, the banditos would come out and there'd be a shootout.
True.
So let's just talk before we get back to the lease. Let's talk
Yeah.
about what your ideas are for this place.
Yeah.
What would you
I
do
mean,
with
it's
the office?
yeah. I mean, I think I would that we'd rent it out to
Yep.
somebody. It looks like it has some nice doors there too, in the front and back. I thought I
Yep.
saw a picture where it had some in the back as well.
Wow.
Um, so you could maybe break it up to two,
Yep.
something like that. Now definitely looks like it's in pretty rough shape, but I mean, whatever, that's to be expected. We're
Do you remember
not shy from that.
when I showed you the original? So it's not a shed. It looks like it's some, sorry, can you see this on the screen here?
Yeah, I can.
It
Yeah,
looks like it might just be a shade structure.
sure. Yeah. So from
You know,
top, it looks like
Texas
a structure,
shade is
but
pretty important, right?
yeah. Yep.
You want to keep certain things out of the direct sun. So that might be 300 square feet. That might be interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So the office, if you don't mind writing just down a few notes so you have them, the
Sure.
office could be occupied by one or two companies, right?
Yep. Yep.
Together with a yard, together with some workshop space.
Yep.
All right, so that's possible. And then this building here, which is about 3,400 square feet, excluding the office, obviously, you could probably do what they've done elsewhere, and that is put a couple more overhead doors in here so that you could break it up into additional workshops. So you might end up, rather than with one large office and one large, warehouse space, you might end up with two smaller offices and maybe three workshops or
Great.
four workshops.
Right.
You know, if it's 3,400 square feet, you could have one that's 800 square feet, one that's 1,200 square feet, and one that's 1,400 square feet.
Right.
I would make them a little bit different sizes if I could.
Okay. Yeah, that
So
makes
just
sense.
write down 800, 1,200, and 1,400 square foot workshops, two offices, and plenty of room for lots of construction yards, right?
Yep.
The other thing that I think is important for you, and we've talked about this many times, is when you do the site visit and you visit with the local town, you find out if there are any regulations where you could put some of these small workshops that I like on the site. What's the maximum size shed you can just plunk on the site without a building permit? They may say everything needs a building permit, even whatever, but I don't have to show you because we've talked about it a million times. But
Yeah.
I do think the future of Longyards is providing people, and the good news about this site is you can provide people with a yard and a workshop right away because they're right there. And you remember the first slide deck I showed you of Longyards? Remember the broken down house that looked like it
House.
was ready for a tear down? I said, Chris
Yep.
Long, don't ever tear this down. He renovated it beautifully. He did a great job. And that house has a site office for his site manager. It has an upstairs unit with a couple of offices, two or three offices, downstairs with two or three offices. And the house with yards makes about $7,000 a month.
Right. I remember he said it's just unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so don't tear this
No.
down. So a
No.
couple of
Yeah.
questions for the local planner. Can I put some sheds on the site? Can I put some sea cans on the site, sea containers, right, on the site? Can I put up some fencing? If I need some additional gravel, how much of that can I do without a building permit, if anything?
Yep.
All right. Hopefully you'll be able to put, like I've now got, I don't know, I've lost track of how many of these little things I bought, but I really like the 160 square foot workshops that I've been able to buy. I told you that I bought them from North Country Sheds here in Ontario. They cost anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000. I put them on a gravel base about 4 or 6 inches above grade, so the water wicks away. That wouldn't have done any good in Brisbane.
No, seriously.
13 feet of rain, they just would wash away. But hopefully you don't get that in Texas or Ontario.
No.
But anyway, so you build a base of 5 or 6 inches. I think we actually ended up with 8 inches of gravel. You put your shed on top of that. I put in a reverse cycle heat pump. So, I mean, Texas can get cold in the winter. So you got some heat and you've got some air conditioning, which is very important in Texas and Florida and Ontario too, but much more so in Texas. So you got some AC, and you add electrical, and that's it.
Right. Yep.
One other thing, and that's about a $26,000 cost. So there'll be somebody in the area who's making these sheds. You probably could buy them cheaper in Texas than you can in Ontario, but we buy them, like I said, for 10 to 12,000 Canadian dollars, and then we make a few improvements.
Yeah.
And we do spray foam insulate them, and I would do the same thing in Texas.
Remember you said that. Okay. Yeah.
And the reason for that is spray foaming is about a $1,600 or $1,700 cost, maybe a little bit more, but not much, because these are small buildings. But it will reduce the heat load and, of course, the thermal loss fantastically. You'll probably get R12 to R15, maybe even R20.
Great.
You do the walls and you do the ceiling, and we do underneath as well.
We do. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So, and that reduces the amount of power you need for your heat, reverse cycle heat pump. So it'll be much more efficient in the winter and of course, much better in the summer.
Sure. And
All
that's
right.
actually one thing I should tell you about this, though. We will need to connect power to this because right now they don't have power running to it.
That's going to be very important in your due diligence. Write that down. You're going to take a few more notes, write that down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Write that down because when I got hold of the barn dominium project, even though I built it, I got hold of it again after we kicked out a tenant. The electrical had been disconnected because he hadn't paid his electrical bill for 2 years. And so it cost me about $26,000 to reconnect it because, first of all, even though the electricity was in his name, you call up Hydro Ontario and they said, well, oh, too bad. You have you're the landowner, you have to pay his bill, and then you can sue him. I said, well, he's run off into the hinterlands of Alberta, or maybe he's in the Dakotas. I have no idea where he is. And I think it should be illegal. I mean, it'd be like you asking me to pay your mortgage.
Yeah, right.
Or I ask you to, by the way, that would be fine. You could pay my mortgage if you want to, but
Yeah.
I mean, it should be illegal. I mean, if something's in my name, I should be responsible, but
Responsible for it.
government, how government is, heads they win, tails you lose, right?
Yep, exactly.
So I had to pay like $8,000 or $10,000 of like back bills. They said, otherwise we won't connect you.
Yeah.
And I had to, because the standards had changed, I had to put in a new transformer and other upgrades. So connecting this to electricity could be a significant amount of money. So you need to have you need to be in touch with somebody who does electrical work who can help you estimate that.
Right. Okay. Yeah,
right? Because you're going to have to budget for that. But I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You need power.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Now, another question I want you to ask the local planner is accessory residential allowed here? Because somebody is going to want to put a tiny house on here and live next to their workshop and their work shed and their yard. Somebody will want it. I'm telling you, I get asked this all the time, and we do it. I'm not 100% sure it's legal, but we do. And so in your case, this is Texas. I think I would ask in Texas.
Yeah. Right.
You don't I will getting shot or something.
Yes, exactly. Right.
But I would ask, is accessory residential? Because somebody, in this little office here, wouldn't surprise me if somebody said, hey, listen, I'm gonna live in that office. I'm gonna run my office there. I'm gonna have a home there. I'm gonna have a home office there. I'm gonna have my workshop next door. Right, and so just ask the planner, is that something permitted? You know, it's called accessory residential.
Okay, yeah, we ran into that in Andrews and they said there it wasn't allowed because I know people are living in some of these warehouse, like they had these structures kind of similar and they
So
definitely
one
had
thing
people
that I would not allow is I would not allow anybody to live in
live in, right,
because of the
right,
fire code.
right,
So
okay, right.
the next thing you want to look at is whether there's fire separation between this and that. So when you do your due diligence, ask if there's fire separation there. If there's not, I mean, you could just add, you know, 2 layers of drywall and fire separate it. Because if somebody is living here, you want to make sure if somebody's welding something here and they start a fire, that you generally, with a fire separation, 2 sheets of drywall probably give you, each sheet would probably give you a 45-minute, you know, 45 minutes of time to get out.
I'm
2
good,
sheets
yeah,
of drywall done properly probably gives you an hour and a half, maybe. All
okay,
right, so if you have a fire separation there and somebody wants to live and work there, and if the locals are okay with it, then that's good. But you'd also want to, if they would allow it, you'd want, I mean, it would be fantastic if they would allow it where they could have like a yard and a workshop, maybe one of those portable workshops, and bring a tiny house on wheels, or for that matter, an RV.
right,
Okay. So those are questions to ask.
okay,
Looks like you'll have some kind of ability to have some kind of signage here.
yeah,
And again, going back to this, I wanted you to ask if that's a legal access, because generally speaking, they don't like an access right on a corner,
yeah,
because you've got trucks coming down here, Huckleberry Lane and turning, coming down Pine Street and turning, and then you've got ingress and egress. It's all coming out in the intersection. They may ask you to relocate that entrance to here.
here, okay,
But
that would
have
be
to know that.
horrible, yeah, okay,
All right. But overall, I really like this location. I like the site. I like the potential, and I'm just sort of crossing my fingers that that the local planning department will sort of understand that there's some things that you could do here that would really liven up the business part.
yeah, right, exactly.
Okay. All right, let's go back over here. Um, to the agreement. All right, so that was very helpful. All right, let's go here. Make sure we got it done here. So the addresses are correct now,
Yes,
and we've got just over 5 acres, right?
yep,
Okay. Um, Now, one of the questions I asked, or maybe I didn't, but one of the questions I wanted to ask is, did you put in here that if you had to or you wanted to, you could extend the lease for another year?
yes, so that was added on here.
Okay,
Now,
okay, that's all I wanted to ask. The other thing I wanted to ask is, assuming that you sign it in the next few days, would you be allowed, maybe it's down below, would you be allowed to start your pre-marketing on February 1st?
yes, yes, we can do that. Maybe we should outline that a little bit more, but
Yeah,
they
we'll
said,
put it.
yeah, any of that marketing, yeah,
Um, the good thing about the base rent is that half of it will be credited to the purchase price.
exactly. Yep,
So
they agreed to
really,
that.
as long as you buy it, I really see you renting this for 2,000 a month, and the other 2,000 is
Right, exactly, right.
I've been through this.
Yep,
It's fine. Yeah. Yeah, they will have no idea what your monthly rates are.
yeah, right.
They just won't know. That's reasonable, I think, too.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So there's no local collection of trash. I guess it's private collection, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And this is reasonable too. In Ontario now they're asking you, I think, for like $5 million worth of insurance.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. All right. May use this office, administrative storage and maintenance equipment and single level storage containers. Land may be used storage yard and lay down yard. I think that's all we're gonna say here. The accessory residential will be silent about that, okay?
Right. Yeah,
That's
we want it to be
something
kind of broad.
you'll just ask the town. If the town says okay, the seller I don't think is gonna care.
Right, exactly.
That's good at discretion here.
This was something that John flagged, which I get in a traditional lease, like if I was
Yeah.
actually wanting to, but I get where they're coming from. The guy doesn't want to fix that whole building if I'm literally just gonna, lease because my idea is again, I want to eventually buy it. So
Yeah, what
you know,
it basically is, I get that, is as is where is, right?
exactly
Yeah.
right,
I don't
right.
think you can change that.
Yeah, that's what I figured too.
I think that's okay. Are there cranes here? No.
Maybe in the
Oh,
building, but I didn't see.
it says not applicable.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Okay,
right.
there's no cranes here. Okay, that's fine. I didn't think so. And no matter what the condition of the building is, even if it's structurally unsound, you can fix it.
Yeah, right. And that's how I thought too. I was like, well,
Fix it.
it doesn't really matter.
Well, it does. I mean, I would like this building
But-
pristine, but you're not gonna buy a pristine building for this price.
Exactly. Right. That's how I looked at it.
Yeah, I saw that. Good. That's nice. So I assume that the landlord, or in fact, Paul Johnson or Johnson?
That's a good point,
I think it's
actually.
Johnson. Yeah, I'm gonna change.
It's got to be.
Yeah, but it says Paul Johnson and Associates, and then
Yeah, right, right. Eric Paul Johnson.
I can't change that, but or maybe I can. I might do that. Whoops, no, that's not working. Shit. See if I can get this. Oh, shit. Uh, Trash that. I just changed it, okay? I
Right. Yeah.
think that's right. I'm gonna call this version 8.
Yeah. Okay.
I just made one change. Okay, that looks good. The address is correct in here?
Correct. Yes.
All right, yeah, so as is condition.
Now, these should be looked at also with the email that I sent you because I don't think they updated some changes on this to add some language in there, but I guess it's still worth reading this
Oh, no,
first.
we're gonna go through it. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, we gotta get this right.
exactly.
I'm gonna stop sharing this and I'll share the other screen.
Yeah.
All right, so this is what you sent me.
Right there. Yeah, exactly.
All right, and so what part of these property to be delivered in as is condition, that's the same.
We got it. Yep.
What are some of the things
So
that we need to look at?
yeah, so this other okay, so this applies where it says landlord agrees to credit 50% of the base rent, like we had talked about, but they said it only applies to that first 12 months, the primary lease term, which I mean, I'm okay with that.
So I have to put that in here in the agreement, right? 'Cause
That's
it's,
right. Yeah. Right. We were going to change that. John, so that one we didn't need clarifying. This is the one that I think it makes sense, but John wanted to clarify with them the next one.
just before we
Uh,
get to the next one
okay,
though,
sure.
I want to make sure we deal with this one. All right, so I'm gonna just share the other screen with you. I apologize going back and forth.
That's okay.
Um, so landlord agrees to credit 50% of the base rent and the full security deposit. And I have to put in here, this applies only to the primary lease term, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so let me do that. Smaller. So that's what you wanted there, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So basically you've got a year to buy this thing.
Right.
All right.
Exactly.
Okay, now we're going back to the other screen. Okay, now what's the next one?
Yeah. So this is because I mean, in my opinion, this is the deal breaker-ish. During the term of the lease, the landlord will not market the property for sale or for lease. And then they said agree to no on-site marketing, but the seller shall continue online marketing for sale upon expiration of the primary lease. So again, I read that as for the first 12 months, they will no longer market to sell it, market to lease it. But if for whatever reason I were to go past that, then they can put it back on the market technically. Is that how you read that?
What is your concern here?
Well, my concern would be if I lease this up, you know, eight months from now, Trump wins the election, drilling goes crazy again. Some oil company just comes in and says, "Well, oh, this is for sale. I'll give you 600, cash right now," and then it's on me to have to match that offer. And I've already done maybe some improvements, some other things, and I just don't want somebody to come in there and try to take that out for a larger amount of money. So I just don't want them to market that it's still for sale. I want that first year where it's, sort of
Okay,
totally
so
mine and
I don't think that's what this is saying. What I think it says is after 12 months, if you renew your lease, they have the right to start marketing it. Because your
right,
option in this lease to buy is only for the first 12 months.
right,
So,
exactly.
so, so during the first 12 months of the lease, I'm just reading from your
Yeah,
agreement.
yeah,
Okay?
yep,
During the first 12 months of the lease, tenant shall have the right to purchase the property in the amount of $495,000. Landlord agrees to credit 50% of the base rent and the full security deposit that has been paid at the time of closing to the purchase. This applies to the primary lease term only.
right,
Tenant has an option to renew the lease for an additional 12-month period under the same terms and conditions as the primary term of the lease, provided notice is sent to the landlord at least 90 days. Continued in special provisions. Hang on, continued somewhere. Yeah, 90 days prior, landlord shall provide at landlord's sole expense a phase one environmental site assessment of the property before lease commencement. Landlord will take corrective action needed based on those results and in turn provide a clean phase one with no further action required. That's great.
yeah, right,
Okay.
right,
So what this is saying, and I can put this in special provisions if you want, and I can change it. I can make it specific.
right.
Uh, but before I get to that, if you read section 35, if you read section 35, he says there's a discount of 28,000, the price would be 467. But if I understand it correctly, 50% of 4,000, so that's 2,000, that's 24,000, plus I guess the security deposit is 4,000. That's how come it's 28.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
So
That actually makes sense. Yeah.
I think that's, I'm going to add that in because it just does give you a little bit more clarity. Okay.
Right.
So we'll get it all done, Chris. It won't take that much longer, so just be patient. We just want to make sure it's done right. All
I
right, so
agree.
I'm gonna go back up here and stop sharing that screen, share the other one. Okay, so this applies, and I'm gonna put right in here. I'll put this in here. Control E. Put an asterisk here. Okay, and I'll put an asterisk here for greater clarity. Okay. So I think we've dealt with the first 12 months correctly now. During the first 12 months of the lease, tenant shall have the right to purchase the property in the amount of $495. Landlord agrees to credit 50% of the base rent and the full security deposit. Then you see the little asterisk for greater clarity, a discount of 28K, i.e. a price of $467. And then this applies to the primary term only. Then you have an option to renew as long as you give the landlord notice that you're going to extend for 12 months. Okay, that's fine. But let's go back over here. The landlord has said, if you do that, you are going to lose. And that's, if I were the landlord, I would say, look, Chris, I'm giving you a $28,000 discount. Well, really, I'm giving you 24,000. I'm giving you your security deposit back. So I'm giving you 28 grand off the price if you close it. But if you're going to take 2 years to close, I am going to start trying to market it. If I can sell it to somebody else while you're there, I will. You'll have a total of 2 years to be on the property, and after that, you're going to get kicked out by whoever the new buyer is. And away goes all of your discounts. So he really wants to sell this to you.
Right.
So I would agree with that, and I can tell you, if it was me, I would only sign this agreement because at the end of the day, I'm going to own it. It's the only way I would do that.
Well, exactly. If this was a true lease, like I would
Yeah,
not do obviously
and
have this stuff.
if you think about it, a purchase of $467,000 for somebody in your position, in so many ways, to experiment with the Longyards. If it fails, look. We've talked about this before, but I want to make it clear.
Right. Yeah.
If you and I were to start a tech business and spend $467,000, and after a year it didn't work out, and we'd sell the intellectual property, maybe in most cases we might get $5,000 or $10,000 for that.
Sure.
Right. We'd just write off all the money. Correct?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you've probably seen tech businesses, small tech businesses started. Some succeeded and some failed, but the failures, they often don't get their money back.
Exactly.
They just close the door and say, well, that didn't work.
Right.
In real estate, if you bought it for 467, you're probably going to get your money back and maybe a little bit more. If Mr. Trump gets elected, which I think is quite likely, it'll be drill, baby, drill.
Exactly.
And the Canadian pipeline through the United States will get completed to the Gulf, which it should have been anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
That was ridiculous. The United States is buying oil from dictators in Venezuela and Saudi Arabia instead of their friends in Canada. I mean, Biden did that for political reasons, but it's incredibly stupid. I mean, that makes no sense. Why we want to make Saudi Arabia even richer or Venezuela, I don't know.
Makes no sense.
Anyway, so your downside after you say it just doesn't work for some reason after 2 years of flogging a dead horse. Maybe we sell it for 500,000. Maybe we sell it for 600,000. Right. You get your money back and you say, well, I'm gonna build more Melody places and fewer Longyards.
Right.
So I don't think that the risk level is very high here. And especially since you've chosen a town, you and Chris Long have chosen a town that is a little bigger. The other ones that we looked at were quite small towns. Abilene, I think, is over 100,000 people.
It is. It's about 125.
Yeah. So I don't know how you feel about that, but I think I would agree to this because I want you to get this deal signed.
Me too. No, I agree. We're on the same page. Yeah,
All
that's
right,
how we look at it.
so I'm gonna have to add this in somewhere. All right. So I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna go back to the other screen. I think that's what he means. So basically, you no longer have an option to purchase. You can still purchase, so you can make an offer,
Right.
but you don't have an option to purchase at a fixed price.
Exactly. Right. Yep.
Great. If the tenant elects to renew lease term for an additional 12 months, then the option to purchase at a fixed price and its discount expires. I think that's what he's talking about.
Right.
Okay. Now, 3, he also wanted this. Okay. During what they call primary term of lease. I don't like put lots of thes in. During the primary term of lease, landlord will not market property. I'll put in subject property for lease or for sale. It is kind of weird. Make this number 4. It's not a very easy interface.
No.
Shit.
I had this lunch meeting today and the guy called me. I'm just gonna quickly call him back to see if he's canceling. If you want to just give me 1 second.
Sure, sure. I'll just keep working on this.
Okay, thanks. Hold on one more. Yeah, I might. If he calls me back, it looks like we'll probably end up rescheduling. But I'll let you know.
Right. So can you read what I've written here?
Okay. Okay. On expiration of the primary lease, landlord, yeah, shall have the right to market subject property online, but without any on-site signage. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So now there's a couple other things that he's asked for. He's asked for if the option to purchase goes to contract, purchase of a phase one ESA will be at the buyer's option and shared cost. So he wants that phase one to be a shared cost. He doesn't want to do it on his own. So he hasn't agreed to that.
Right. That's one of the points John is calling in to tell him about. He thinks that we can get it. So
All right.
I was curious to
So
see. I mean,
I'm with you on that. We're going to leave that clause the same, right?
yeah,
In other words,
right,
one of the reasons we're going to do that, whether the landlord will agree or not, one of the reasons we're going to do that is if we give them everything, we're we're capitulating too quickly.
right,
And
right.
you know, there's seller's remorse, and that will happen. In other words, shit, if he gives me everything I want, I should have asked for more.
For more, right,
Right. So we're going to leave that one unchanged. It's a strategic move.
right.
All
Okay,
right.
okay, yep,
All right. So what I'm going to suggest, I want to make sure that this is saved. What I'm going to suggest is there's a couple other things here about the commission. To hell with that.
yeah. Well, right. John
We'll
said
let
don't
them
do it.
worry about that.
Exactly.
We're going to leave. We've given the landlord almost everything he wants, but not quite. The only thing that I think is still not really maybe according to what they want is the commission, but they can figure that out. That's beyond my scope and your scope, and the phase one. If they want you to share the cost, a typical phase one in Canada would be about $3,500. Probably in the US, it's about $2,500. If they ask you to pay half of that, you probably would agree. But we're not going to
Right.
agree to that now.
Right now. Yep, I agree.
Just keep that in your
Yep,
back pocket. Now,
absolutely.
the other question I had for you that I sent you was, um, shit, sorry about this. I asked whether, yeah, here it is. Whether it says you can do the pre-marketing
Right,
as soon as
right.
the lease is signed. I didn't see that there. Did you
See
see?
it in there. Right. No, no, I didn't.
Okay,
That's a good
so I
point.
apologize. We're gonna make a couple more changes. And just bear with me for a moment. And I think in here, it also says at the end of the lease term, you have to remove all the improvements you've made. That's a big no.
Well, it was weird because actually, I know Chris wanted that, meaning like we would remove everything and take everything because it'd be ours. Because he thought a lot of it would be removable fencing anyways, and he thought we could recoup some of the cost by taking it out.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
The cost of
So it.
removing fencing, I'm not talking about chattels. Like, for example, let's say you had
Oh, right.
those portable workshops.
Yes. Okay,
Those
that's what we
you
mean. The
just sell them.
chattels.
People come in,
Yeah, exactly.
pickup truck and a forklift, out they go. You
Right.
bought one for $10,000, you probably sell it for 10 grand.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so not the chattels, but the fixtures like fencing. If you put partition walls in to divide the workshops, it you're not going to take that stuff out.
No. Right.
Right. So
Right.
let me just write some more stuff. And again, I apologize it's taking so much time, but
No,
I
no,
think
no.
it's useful to
Makes
do.
sense.
All right, number 5 here. Um, at end of lease term, oh, Bruce, come on. At end of lease term or any extension thereto, tenant shall remove all chattels from subject property at tenant cost, but all fixturing,
Going off the page.
it's a pretty crappy editing tool,
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I know.
but
Seriously.
all fixturing shall remain in place to the benefit of landlord and at no cost to landlord. He should see that as a huge plus. I mean, if you go in
I
there
was
and you
gonna
add,
say. Yeah.
you add power and you fix the place
Right.
up and you add a couple of new overhead doors and you grade it a little bit and whatever else,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
At end of
exactly.
lease term or any extension thereto, tenant shall remove all, oh, geez, I can't even spell chattels right. Tenant shall remove all chattels from subject property at tenant cost, but all fixturing shall remain in place to the benefit of landlord and at no cost to landlord.
Right.
Now, if John can't sell that to the landlord needs his head read.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right, and there's one more I have to put in here. 6, the tenant shall be permitted to market subject property for lease / sublease from for uses as described above from date of execution of this agreement by all parties. Typing was better. Has John met Chris?
They've spoken on the phone. Yeah, they've talked a few times now.
All right. Okay, so we've got the pre-marketing there. dealt with the improvements, done that. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
All right, let me send you version, I think it's now version 8.
That's right.
All right. Now you got to make sure that John and everybody else, if they make changes, to make changes to this document, not an earlier document. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a document that nobody knows anything about. All right.
Yeah, right. Right.
So I think this is now very close to something that I think you can sign.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So you should have that.
Yeah, just got it.
All right. Let's change the subject now. Let's go to Melody Place. All
Melody
right.
Place. Yep.
Get rid of that. I don't need that anymore. Melody Place. So this was kind of what I had in mind, but
Yeah.
I wanted your opinion, and we could change it.
No, no. We'll see.
I would be the chair. You would be
Yep.
El Presidente. Director of Business Development, maybe Victoria Clooney. She's a 40-year-old Canadian Armed Forces officer who's leaving the Armed Forces, full of
Right.
beans. I like her.
Yeah.
But general manager, all of these can change. The ones that I think are kind of fixed in stone might be this one, would be this one, and would be this one. You know, like we need Simon Faso gas from Humble Creek, and we need Humble Creek. We want to have that, and maybe Tosh Serafini, who's also involved with Humble Creek. Maybe those are. But whether Michael, you know, my daughter's boyfriend, Michael Swatton, is the right guy for GM, or whether Victoria is. And the other question that I want you to think about is what role Audrey could play.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I don't know yet, but she might
Yeah.
be sort of, operations manager. She might be marketing
Right.
manager. She could be all kinds of different things, but she has to be keen on it, right?
Yeah.
I've
Right.
talked to
Right.
Audrey a little bit, and I may have even said to her directly that whatever you do next, you want to be, passionate about it, right?
Right.
You want to get up every morning. You don't want to be like, you already have a job you hate.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
so I think you should ask her whether this has appealed to her, and what kind of role she might play in it. And we should think that through.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
All
I
right.
agree.
And if she,
Yep.
she says, no, that's not my deal either,
Yep.
uh, that's fine. But you have
Yeah.
to ask her
Yeah.
if she's keen on it. To me, if I was a young woman, hanging out at sports or stadiums or arenas and entertaining people and being responsible, that can be quite a fun thing to do for a decade.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
I mean, she's
Absolutely.
quite young. She's what, 23?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the kind of thing that you do from 23 to 33,
Exactly.
And usually when you're around 30, women, when they're around 30, 31, 32, 33, many of them, they say, okay, they get baby fever. I'm not saying
Exactly.
that would be Audrey, but they
No, no,
do.
no. I know it does. I've talked to her about that. I'm like, you say things now, but I know it's flip.
Yeah.
Switch
And,
could flip.
in their 20s, there was a song, Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Yeah. Right.
Did you ever hear that tune?
Oh. Oh yeah.
Okay,
Cindy
you're old
Lauper.
enough, you heard
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Of course. It's a
Certainly
classic.
with my 3 teenage daughters and in their 20s, they just wanted to have fun. But now all of them in their 30s, they got baby fever.
Yep. Yep.
All right. That's just been my experience. All right. So common shareholders, I thought 40%, common shareholders being shares that with votes, right?
Right.
I thought
Exactly.
40% would be for Prof Bruce, 25% would be for our new Presidente. Humble Creek Homes, including Simon, Patrick, and Tosh, and Victoria too, would be another 25%. And maybe Michael ends up with 10%. I don't know. That's a
Right.
possibility. So that
Yeah.
would be the common shares
Sure.
of the company, and this would be the parent company. Because
Right.
I think we're going to end up with a company that does Ottawa, a company that does Miami, a company that does LA, a company that does Brisbane,
Yeah.
a company that does London. I think so.
Okay.
And the
Okay. And
reason
then,
for that is here, preferred shareholders in Ottawa company. All right. So this really is, to me, this is the parent company.
right.
All right. And these guys could have, what I was thinking is, and I just put some names in here of people I coach who might be interested, but it doesn't really matter, is they would purchase one tiny home for $175,000, which is the wholesale price, less a $5,000 discount, or a $5,000 upgrade. They could choose.
Okay.
Um,
Right.
Plus, they would pay $5,000 to purchase pref shares in the Ottawa company or the Miami company. Because you don't want to give up 1%, because that's like, I don't know what $5,000 is. I mean, I think if you total up all this stuff here, 45, that would be 95. I guess no, that's 40. Good thing I do this. So yeah, so that totals $100,000, okay? So $5,000 in pref shares, I was thinking that's, 1% of Ottawa company, but not of the parent company. Because I mean, if
Right. Okay.
company it ends up being a $300 million company, just as a number, 1% is like $3 million.
Yeah, it's a it's a big
If
chunk.
the Ottawa company ends up being $10 million, which is possible, it was certainly the Miami company with 10 million because Miami's Miami. But say the Ottawa company ends up being worth $5 million, just as a number, 1% is a $50,000 bonus.
Right. Right.
So I think that's kind of what I had in mind.
That makes sense. That
Um,
does make a lot more sense.
so somebody who, and again, you always look at your downside, right?
Of
So
course. Yeah.
if you look at your downside, say you bought one of these tiny homes and you parked it in the tent, in the Melody tent. And for some reason you weren't happy. Presumably you could just bring your truck and pull it out, and you still own 1% of the Ottawa company, right?
Sure. Yeah. Right.
Now we would put in here that they'd have to leave it inside the Melody place for 3 years. There'd be a minimum of 3 years.
Okay. At a
After
time.
3 years, if
Yeah.
you don't like us for some reason, or you have another use for it, you can
Pull it out.
disappear, something like that.
Yeah.
Listen, if there's anything in here that you don't like,
Yeah. No. 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 I know. No. This is as far as like company building, this has obviously been a good learning experience here too. But I mean, I think for what people are putting up for what they get, I mean, I think it's pretty reasonable. I don't see why, if people really like this idea, they wouldn't kind of jump at this.
yeah, and you hope that the 1% produces some return for you. 1% ownership, you hope that returns. And I think that when I did the numbers, I looked at them again this morning, this spreadsheet, that I
Yeah, I
did,
was looking at that too.
and you
Yeah.
saw what I did when I was on I was in one of the
Yeah.
airports, or I don't know where I was, and I just cut out 10 by 35 foot semis, I
Yeah.
mean nobles, and I tried different arrangements. I think this is the only arrangement that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, to get that many in there too. And it makes a cool like community in the middle. I like the little picture you did here too, where it shows some of the games that you could have and
Yeah, yeah. I, I,
entertainment.
I think that's cool. But the way I did it, Chris, is I used a V shape here so that, let's say you and Audrey are staying in here with a couple of friends, and a couple of your buddies are over here. So these are now V shaped like this. Obviously the tent structure goes around, and you have a little bit of a sort of a private area here, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
There'd be a
Yeah.
little table
Absolutely.
here and chairs, etc. So you and Audrey, and maybe you have some guests here, and your buddies are here. You can get outside and play cards, or you can sit there and have a glass of wine. This
Right.
is really the public area. So there'd be about a meter, you know, here, so you can access the public area. But here, you know, you'd end up with quite a bit of space because the circumference is much bigger than just the, you know, 35 feet times 16, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Circumference is obviously bigger. So this would, I don't know what the area would be, but it would be pretty big.
You'd
So
have
this
a
is an
nice.
area where, you know, two couples or four couples could or
Hang out.
families could hang out and have a little bit of privacy. And then when you want to go and hang out with the whole group, you can go here. If you're using it for a bachelor party or bachelorette party, that's one thing. If you're using it for a corporate get together, you know, within most companies, you have small groups that like each other, you know, and they would hang out together. And you can see that the doors face each other here, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
These are
Makes
the
sense.
main doors. So that's how you would arrange it, I think.
Yeah. Uh, that's cool.
And one of the questions I wasn't sure is for these people, going back to this document, who bought
Yeah.
tiny house, on their $175,000, you know, if you want to give them an 8% cap rate and operating costs are, you know, 34%, it means essentially you're giving them like a 12% return.
Which
So
is more you're going to find a lot of places.
yeah, so I don't know what when coming back to this document, whether you want to guarantee them, not that you're guaranteeing any of them, but you know, do you want to, you know, if they're putting their tiny home there, I don't really want to give them a share of revenues. That means you have to disclose all your revenues.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I was thinking, and again, it's something that we could change.
Yeah.
Um, I was thinking we'd give them you know, 8% on their money, or 10% or 12%. I mean,
Okay, so structure like that, like just, what the money they're putting in, we will give you
yeah.
that
So
return
if
as
you buy
opposed to
a
giving them a
tiny house
right.
from Humble Creek and you park it in the Melody Place, while you're parked there, we'll give you 8% on your money, or 10% on your money,
Guaranteed. Right.
or 12% on your money. And the 1% pref share is your potentially your what do they call it? Like the icing on the cake?
Yes, yes, exactly. I see what you mean. Well, no, to your point, I'd much rather that than actual percentage of revenues.
I think so too.
Which is,
But
yeah.
what do you think is a reasonable number? I don't want it to be too high, but I also want it to be attractive enough. Would you? I mean,
Well, I
the
mean,
numbers that you can choose are 8, 10, or 12.
well, right. I mean, it sort of jumps out at you 10. I mean, I think, wouldn't most people for the money, if you're getting a guaranteed 10% return on something? I mean, I know I would jump at something like that if I had the money. I mean, what these savings accounts are only 5 right now. The market's 8 at most. So
Yeah, so 10% interest on tiny home purchase while apart. That would be something like that. I think that's great thinking on your part. All right,
yeah.
I like it.
So you haven't approached any, like, you said like Victoria, quite just yet on,
Oh, I've talked to
rules, right?
everybody,
Okay.
but you know, if you're going to be the president of the company, I'm not going to do a damn thing without talking to you first. Because I
Of
mean, what's the
course.
point of
Yeah.
having a
Yeah.
president if you don't?
Yeah.
Now, one thing I think I mentioned to you is next Friday, not tomorrow, but next
Yes.
Friday, I have a meeting with CTC. I'm going to see if I can work out a deal with them.
That would be amazing.
And I'll
Yeah.
run it by you first. I mean, you
Sure.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll get a draft. But if you're going to be the president of it, I mean, you're going to learn. You have to learn every aspect of this business, and
Inside
so
and out. Yeah.
I'll do the first deal in Ottawa, and then it'll be up to you to do 29 more.
Well, yeah. So along those lines, I have my targets here on people down here to
Yeah,
contact.
yeah,
But I wanted to wait for you get back in North America to kind of figure out. I mean, should
yeah,
I
yeah,
just
for sure.
fire away, like start trying to book meetings here with you, or what's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
the best way
sure.
to?
Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. While I was isolated in Southeast Queensland, there was no way I could do any work.
No, no, and like
I
you're
mean,
in survival mode,
we had no
borderline.
power.
Like, yeah, like
You know, every once in a while we'd get 15 or 20 minutes of power, and then it would.
Right, and that's it. I mean, that was crazy.
I mean, there's no way you could schedule any kind of meetings or calls
No,
like
no,
that.
of course
It
not.
was a bit, you know, I've had lots of training. I spent 3 years in the military, so I was never worried for myself ever. I mean, I'm not stupid enough to try and drive my RAV4
Well,
through
right.
a 2 meter
I mean,
river
geez, 2 meter.
of
Yeah,
flowing at,
yeah.
I don't know what the current would have been flowing at, but 20 knots. You
Oh,
know, 25
jeez,
miles
yeah.
an hour,
No
maybe more, but
way.
probably 25 miles an hour with boulders
Boulders coming down.
and huge trees, you know, and oh, I'm going to take my bubble car in there with my
Yeah,
kids
yeah,
in the
right.
car.
No, yeah.
Yeah, with Audrey in the car. Oh yeah. Oops, I screwed up here. Sorry. Uh, yeah, get rid of that. So, where was I going? Sorry. Oops. So I think I have here. Yeah. So I think I sent you this, but I don't know if you could read it. So these are the deal points that I'm going to take when I
Oh,
go.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
So one of the things that I think you should do is you should you know, talk to some of these Chinese folks and get a real quote if you can for a tent that has 120 foot diameter. And it has to have a hell of a slope to it because we've got to shed snow in Canada.
Okay, yeah.
And in Miami, you know, you don't have 13 feet of rain, but you have a lot of rain. So you want
Right.
to make sure that you'll have, and the Chinese manufacturers, some of them are very good and some of them are terrible. Some of them
Right,
are world class. There's no doubt.
right.
Chinese
But some,
are smart people, and in many ways, they've caught up with Americans. You know that.
sure. Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
they're not the United States of America yet. No, there's no country in the world that compares to the United States. But
Yeah.
if there's any countries that are getting closer, it would be nations like Japan, Germany, China, and after that, I'm kind of running out. Australia and
Yeah.
Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, France, we're all in the slow lane compared to the United States.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are. I mean, anybody who says differently, they're just deluding themselves. Like we got a prime
Sure.
minister in Canada who I think smokes weed.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy
he is
is
just
he's
different
out of
level.
it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's so
Yeah.
out of it. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I was trying to tell Dawn last night. You know, we were talking about the war in Gaza, and I said, she said, you know, what Israel is doing there is very, very difficult. And I said, there's no question about it. But I said, Dawn, you have forgotten that when I saw those planes fly into the World Trade Center towers, I called you from work and I said, Dawn, there's going to be a war. There's going to be a war. It was no different than when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. You
Right.
didn't have to be like a genius to know that if somebody kills thousands of Americans, the Americans are going to
It's
gird
it's
up and
coming.
go fucking kick their
Yep.
ass. I
Yeah.
said, there's
Yep.
no way that the Americans are going to sit there. 3,000, and don't forget, Canadians died too.
Yeah.
3,000
Yep.
Canadians, Americans, Brits, and others who were in the World Trade Center towers. Anyways, thousands of the people died. I said, there's going to be a war.
Yeah.
I said,
Absolutely.
let's assume for the moment that Dawn and I went to Windsor, Ontario, which is on the border of Detroit.
Oh yeah. Sure.
And we got together 2,000, you know, terrorists in Windsor, and we fly
Yeah.
hang gliders into Detroit, and we kill and rape 1,400 Americans
Americans.
in
Yeah.
Detroit.
In their own homes. Yeah.
Do you
Right.
think the Americans are going to say, well, that's okay?
Okay.
They're going
Yeah.
to come north and kick our fucking ass. Uh,
Yeah.
so I said,
Yep.
listen, I don't want war in Ukraine. I don't want war in Gaza, and I feel sorry for the people who are dying. There's no question. But if somebody attacks you, attacks Audrey, you have the right
Yeah.
to fucking kill them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If
Yep.
somebody came and raped your girlfriend or
Yep.
my wife,
Right.
how
I
would
know.
you react?
Oh, I know, and
So I
over
said,
there,
you know,
that's the
look,
only deterrent.
it, it,
It's
it,
extreme punishment.
it, Mr. Putin, the only way to deal with a dictator, we know that from dealing with Hitler,
Exactly.
dealing with Idi Amin, dealing with Saddam Hussein, the only dealing with Gaddafi, dealing with Ceausescu in Romania. There is only one solution. And by the way, Mr. Putin knows that if he ever loses power, he is a dead man.
Oh yeah. Oh
There
yeah.
are so many
Right.
people who want to kill him in Russia. It's incredible.
Yes. Yes.
So he will hang on to power forever. And I think,
Trevor.
I said at the beginning of this call, I think we have the same issue potentially with Mr. Trump. I do. I think he may try and seize power and continue to be president. All right, enough of that. So back to this. So the Chinese are, I think it's about 11,300 square feet, and it has to have the structure in place to withstand rain, wind, snow, and ice, right? And if it costs $100,000, so be it. If it costs $150,000, whatever the price is, it has to last a minimum of 12 years, right? These tents don't last forever, but you want a minimum
Exactly.
lifespan of 12 years, and you want it to be able to be structurally sound, because we will have to get a building permit for it,
Right.
right? It has
Right.
to meet wind loads, snow loads, rain, all of the conditions. And they know that. I mean, there are tent
Sure.
manufacturers. There's one that I found, I think it was a Christian group that makes these tents for that you could put up where you can have congregation come together.
Oh yeah. Right. Okay.
And you have it on your list somewhere of things. And they would understand that that you have to, if you're going to set it up in Michigan, they have snow there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Set
Exactly.
it up in
Now, is there a
Miami.
height that I should be aiming for too, or is it pretty
Well,
standard? Or
Well, I don't really, that's a good question. I think that the question is how high are the sides? I suspect
yeah. Right.
the sides are probably 10 to 12 feet.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And so that's a great question, Chris. So let's say it's a 10-foot side,
Yeah.
say it's 10 feet, which is just over 3 meters.
Yep.
Um, you'll need a slope. I mean, think about buildings in Switzerland. Switzerland will have, in parts of Switzerland, you will have 14 to 20 feet of snow a year, right, in a season.
God. Yeah.
So have you seen a Swiss chalet? They literally look like
They're
church.
like,
Yeah,
yeah. Right. Right.
like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So fortunately, Ottawa doesn't have 15 or
Yeah.
16,
That.
but we do have snow. So if it was 10 feet and you had a roof like that, if you see what I'm doing,
Yep. Yep.
that wouldn't work. That
No.
slope would be a disaster. You would,
Yeah.
your
Right.
first winter you would lose your tent.
Right.
So it probably is going to be at least a 30-degree slope. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah. Okay.
we can figure it out. If you remember your formulas for tan.
I was
You
gonna
remember
say,
the rise and run? So 10
yeah.
feet and the diameter is 120. So you've got 10 feet, you've got 60 feet, and you want probably a 30-degree angle, or maybe a little bit more. Let's just boot this up here. That was a great question.
Yeah.
And and the Ontario Building Code says 1 in 3. So I said 33%. So I think that's probably right.
Yeah. Probably. Okay.
So 1 in 3, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so what that means is if you had 10 feet, well, that's a really tall tent. Um, if you just bear with me for a minute.
Yeah.
So if you have a 10-foot rise here and you go 1 in 3, right? That's your 10th. And that's 60 feet. Wow, that's pretty friggin' tall. Uh, so hang on a second. I gotta make sure this is right. 60. Yeah. So I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay.
So your midpoint would be 30 feet.
Okay,
That-
so yeah, our midpoint would be 30 feet. Okay.
Right. So I don't know if
Right.
you can see it, but
Yeah.
so I think that was a great question. So the side of the tent would be 10 feet. The diameter is 120. The radius is 60. A 1 in 3 slope, which is the Ontario Building Code, you can trust that code, means you need a 20-foot rise from the 10 feet. So it's 30 feet. The tent pole, if you sort of get it, is 30 feet minimum.
It's 30 feet, right?
That would be the
Tent
minimum.
pole.
And
Okay.
the tent manufacturers, don't forget, northern China, you get lots of snow too, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's true.
So if you have a good manufacturer there, and you should tell them that we're going to try and source 2 tents, identical, one for Miami and one for Ottawa. The one in Miami,
Right.
you'll be worried about wind loads and I guess rain. In Ottawa, you'll be worried about wind loads and
All
snow.
3 of them. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So, but I mean, a 30-foot high tent will be beautiful to look at.
I was gonna say, yeah, that
It'll
would
be
be pretty
beautiful.
cool. It's gonna stand out. Yeah. And in
Okay.
color, I guess, color scheme doesn't matter. White, I match the.
I have no idea. I mean, if Audrey is interested, what does the branding look like? I have no idea.
Yeah.
And you
Okay.
definitely don't want to ask me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Okay.
When
Yeah,
it
that's
comes
something that.
to, I mean, business models, I'm one of the world's
Yeah.
leading experts. When it
Yes.
comes to picking, say, materials, colors, graphics, all of that I'm a civil engineer and I'm very challenged at that. So,
Sure,
so,
sure.
I don't know what it will be.
That's okay. Yeah, we can come up with that.
All right.
Yep.
That'll be something. Uh, anyway. Okay, so here are the things that I'm going to ask next week. Uh, where could we place a big tent at the Canadian Tire Center? Can we have a 3-year land lease with a 3-year option to renew? I'm going to suggest that the Sens are going to get a share of revenues.
Yep.
They'll get a share of some sponsorship revenues, and they can help us with sponsorship.
Yeah.
The food and beverage will be provided by their existing provider because we can't do anything other than that. But I'm going to ask that they give us a percentage of food and beverage that's sold through us.
Okay.
If they move downtown, I would like to have an option to move with them because they're talking about moving maybe to LeBreton Flats.
Yeah.
Cyril suggested it. I didn't suggest this. He suggested that we would have the exclusive privilege for tailgating at Canadian Tire Center, which is a really great concession.
Yeah.
We would rent only to groups. We're not going to take 16 noble tiny homes and rent them out individually. It'd be much harder to monitor and provide security. Like if
Right.
your company rented it, there'll be one person at your company I can talk to, or Audrey can talk to, or
Sure.
you can talk to, and say, okay, you're responsible for, making sure that people don't get too drunk. We'll have security of our own, but still there'll be somebody at the company who will take responsibility for their
Responsibility. And that would be the same if we were renting to like a bachelor party or something like that. Like
100%.
whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say you're getting, hopefully, man, I mean, none of my business, but say you're getting married to Audrey and we have one of these tents in Miami. Where are you going to hold your bachelorette party?
Yeah. Right. Right. That would
Where are you
actually
going
be
to
a
hold your
pretty sweet
bachelor?
option. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That'd be a nice option. Yeah.
So I would be talking to Audrey, or somebody would, you're the president, but I would be talking to Audrey, I suppose, and her, what do they call them? Her
Bridesmaids or something?
maid of honor or something?
Yeah. 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 That's right.
Bridesmaids, yeah. So there'd be probably a group of 4 or 5 ladies, and for your bachelor party, it'd probably be you and probably 3 or 4 of your pals would be doing it, but they would
Yeah.
be responsible, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you're not taking individual reservations. You shouldn't do that.
Right.
The corporate organization, we're working on that together. And those are the main questions I have.
Sure. Okay. Okay.
If you can think of any others, I'll add them.
Yeah. Let me, cause yeah, well, we have a week till
Yeah, that's
next
a week.
time, and then any,
Like if you were in Ottawa, obviously you would come with us, but I can handle it. I'll probably take Simon with me.
right, okay,
Simon's a very good presenter and he's such a nice man. You know,
yeah,
that counts for a lot with me.
for sure.
Um, all right, close
Well,
window. All right,
if
so
I just had a question. If they like everything, I mean, what, and they're like, yeah, how soon can you do this? Like,
well, for now, what I'm thinking is the best time for us to open our first location would be August 1st or July 1st, probably August 1st of this year. For the Canadian Tire Center, they don't really crank up as far as hockey is concerned until September, October.
exactly, right.
And it's much easier to build something like this and develop it in May, June, July, and August
Yes,
than it
right.
is in January.
No worries. Yep. Okay. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, so August 1st, I think, or September 1st would be the opening, something like
Something like
that.
that. Okay. Yeah.
Right after Labor Day, possibly.
Yeah.
In Miami, we're gonna have fans and air conditioners. And in Ottawa, we're gonna have lots of heaters
Heaters.
in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it won't be, it'll never be super, super warm, in there, but it'll be warm enough that if you have a
Warm
sweater and
enough.
a light jacket
Yeah.
on, you can hang out with your friends and have a beer or something.
Right. Right.
And
Exactly.
in Miami, we'll try and keep it in the 80s as opposed to, because
Yes.
tents, as you know, they can get over
Oh,
100
yeah.
no trouble.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
lots of ventilation.
Yep.
So the tent also has to have sides that you can roll up, right?
Yep.
Because in Miami, that will be very important that you can roll up. And in Ottawa, you'll keep them down, except
Keep
for
them
the
down.
3 days of summer.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
all
Exactly.
right. So I wanted to show you this. I was really surprised. And I sent you this spreadsheet, so you have it, I think. Um, if sorry, I just move over here. Excuse me for a second. I couldn't believe it when I totaled up, and I haven't shown anybody this yet. I'm not
Yeah.
going to show this next Friday until I thought it through, and I want you to look at it too.
Yeah.
But if you look at what the stadium or arena can make out of this, it's quite a bit of money. It's close to
Yeah.
$500,000 a year. And
Right.
the reason for that is, let's see if I can remember what I did here. Yeah, is the stadium will make money from food and beverage. They'll make money from selling tickets to our guests. They'll share in sponsorship revenues, and they'll get some kind of I initially said 8%, but I lowered it to 6%. But if they got a percentage of our revenues, and they got a percentage of our sponsorship revenues, and they got 85% of the tickets, and we got 15, and they got say 25% of the food and beverage, and we got 25% of the food and beverage, they'd make almost $500,000 a year.
Yeah. Right. And they really don't have to do anything.
Probably not a whole lot.
Right.
Go back here. I think I said, did I say that they get 8% to whatever? Maybe not. Anyway, so it's more lucrative for the stadium than I originally thought. I thought maybe they make 100 grand, but when I looked at all the different things, and I didn't put in here, I should have, but I didn't put in here um uh in this spreadsheet. I'll just put it in a placeholder here. I know this stuff, but sometimes you forget stuff. Um, Put in a placeholder here, merchandise sales. So that is a big part of if we end up with a beautiful brand, the right colors and the right, there's going to be some
Right.
musical notes and, melodies suggest musical notes and a tent and a place and tiny homes. I mean, there's a lot to work with there. Merchandise
Yeah.
sales, I think, will be quite interesting.
Yeah, and our own brand, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. So oops. I just put a question mark in there for now.
For now, yeah.
So let's talk about Miami. I mean, I'll send you all this revised stuff after we're finished, but just before we talk about Miami, sorry, I wanted to just give you a quick rundown on Brisbane, because I went and visited a number of places.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I wanted to show you what I found in Brisbane. Can you see my screen okay?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I thought you'd find this interesting.
Hockey.
So this is one of the things, I'm just moving you over there. One of the things about Australia, at least Brisbane, and I think probably every Australian city, is the amount of emphasis they place on fitness and sports. It puts Canada to shame, and the United States, I think.
And the US, yeah.
Like, there are a lot of Australians, young, middle-aged, and old, who look like this. And there are a lot of Americans and Canadians who look like this, right? And the Aussies look like this. No, not all. There's fat Australians, obviously, but I'm telling you, every few blocks in Brisbane, there was another cricket ground. There was a soccer pitch. This was a water polo place. And you can see they had a little grandstand. I don't know if you can see it over here, a little grandstand here.
Yeah, that's nice.
So that you could watch your kids play water polo. And at this park, they had yoga classes. I'd never heard of it before, underwater hockey.
Yeah, I was like, what? I've never heard of that.
They had change rooms and a place where you can get a coffee and a tea and a sandwich. It was fantastic. It's called the Musgrave Park Swimming Center. It was unbelievable. Yeah. And right across the street, there was another park where they had closed. This used to be a place where you could get a coffee, a tea, a sandwich. You could go to the bathroom. The city of Brisbane closed it because it was expensive to maintain, they said. And guess what happened to the park? This park right across the street from one with active uses is now overrun by homeless people.
Yep.
Who, there are no bathrooms, so you have to step around human poop.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I feel sorry for these people, but you've got one park which is hugely successful with all these wonderful people, young and old, doing all aquafit, the old people doing aquafit and the young people playing water polo and just wonderful, just exciting, great place. And right across the street, you have this park that's virtually in the middle of the city. Look at the buildings around it, right?
Right.
All right. So that tells you, I've been telling people, do not build a park unless that park has active uses. And in Ottawa, and I'm sure it wouldn't be any different in most other places, they say, oh, no, a park's supposed to be green. Bullshit. What you get when you have no active uses, soccer mom is never going to this park.
Right.
There's nowhere for her or her daughters to go to the bathroom.
Yep.
Right. I mean, a guy, you and I would go in the bush, but soccer mom and her daughters are not doing that. They're just not. And they're not going to, soccer mom and her daughters are not going to be comfortable with homeless people shooting up.
No.
Next to it. You wouldn't, you have children, you're not taking your daughters there either.
No.
And then this was another of the stadiums that I went to. I talked to an owner, a representative of the owner. It's called Suncorp Stadium. Every few blocks, you got another fucking stadium.
Really? Down there? That's so cool.
And I mean, look at the grounds. I mean, these are perfect grounds for a melody place.
Yeah, exactly.
You could put a 11 or 12,000 square foot tent there, no problem at all. These things are, I mean, look at the number. Yeah. This one is Aussie rules or rugby, I think.
Right.
And what's interesting about this stadium is it's literally right in a residential neighborhood. Like, this is across.
Really? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Here's the stadium, and you go across the street, and there's There's a
That's
bunch of
crazy.
places, you know. So all of these folks are right across the street from these folks.
That's too funny.
And just down about 50 meters in elevation, there's a beautiful off-leash dog park. And if they ever decided to do something else with the dog park, you could put a Melody Place there. It's literally steps away from the stadium.
So cool.
It is so cool. So, you know, 2032, they're building a brand new stadium for the Summer Olympics. I think they're going to do it.
Yep.
And the Aussies are crazy. I mean, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. I mean, those three cities are insane. First of all, they're incredibly wealthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like British Columbia. They're like Texas. They're like
Okay.
Florida. They have
Yeah.
real money, and they have better weather than say Ottawa.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do think
Exactly.
that the countries that we talked about, certainly Australia makes sense, Canada to a lesser extent, I think, but Canada simply because I'm here, Australia because I think it has a tremendous future in sport. The United States, which is exceptional, and Germany and the UK. Those would be the five countries, I think. Beyond that, I
Yeah.
don't care.
Right. Hey, but that's fine. I think there's enough of a market that we can find some business. Yeah.
We can put at least 30 of these together. So now let's
That'd
talk
be
about
amazing.
how to find a spot in Miami. And
Yeah.
the
Yep.
reason I showed you those parks is I came to the conclusion while I was walking around and talking to people in Brisbane, and you know, I'm a pretty outgoing guy, right?
Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
make an
Absolutely.
appointment or anything. I just showed up and knocked on doors.
Yeah. Right. Right. I like that.
I can talk myself into just about anywhere.
Yeah. Right.
And you're the same, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
People are
Yeah.
so friendly and nice, you know. You could knock on the stadium door and say, "Hey, I just
Say,
want,
hey.
can you give me a tour? I'm
Yeah. Right. Right.
I'm involved with Firestone and the Senators."
Yeah. Exactly. We had
Um,
an idea. Just curious. Yeah.
yeah, just name drop. I mean, what the
Yeah. Right.
all true.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
so one of the things I realized is Melody Place doesn't have to be on the arena grounds or the stadium grounds. It could be on a piece of commercial tourism land a block away.
Right.
Do you
Right.
understand?
So
Like
if like,
if we wanted to
yeah.
put one in near Orchard Park in Buffalo, you know
Yeah.
that the Bills Mafia are famous for they're famous for tailgating,
For
right?
tailgates. Oh yeah. Oh God,
I've
yeah.
been there.
I know.
I
Yep.
got
It's
there
a
at
zoo.
7:30 in the morning and I was 2
Yep.
hours.
Late. Yes.
Well,
Exactly.
yes,
Right.
they
Oh
were
yeah.
up from 4 a.m.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, and I was very disappointed that the Bills lost to the Chiefs.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to see them do
I
okay
can't
this
take it.
year. I know.
I told my youngest son, who's a Bills fan, I said, unfortunately, I think the Chiefs will win this game. I said that before.
Yep.
He said, why, Dad? I said, it's not necessarily just because Mahomes is an incredible quarterback. He is. But
Yep.
Josh Allen's, pretty good too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said, they have better coaching.
They do. They just do.
They
Yep.
just do. I mean, I like Sean McDermott,
Different. Yeah. But I
but
don't
I'm
think he's
telling
the
you,
guy.
top to bottom, from Andy Reid down, and Sean McDermott, there's no comparison. And in
Yep.
football, more than maybe any other sport, coaching really matters.
Matters. Yep.
Your
The
talent is
difference.
great too,
Yeah.
but coaching
Yep.
is super, super important.
Yep.
And Andy Reid is just a genius.
Yep. Six straight AFC championship games. I mean, they're the new Patriots, and yeah, a lot of it has to do with the
Oh,
coaching. Yep.
well, coaching, and of course having a great
And the
quarterback
core.
like Tom
Yeah. Oh,
Brady.
yeah. You have to have that top five
Yeah, Tom
quarterback, and then
Brady.
you.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if Josh Allen went to miraculously
Kansas City.
was in
Yeah,
Kansas City with Andy Reid,
they would have won that game. Yeah.
he would win a couple of
Just.
Super Bowls. No, no,
I
no
agree.
question in my mind. Andy
I
would
agree.
change his philosophy because now he has a quarterback
Sure.
who can run 60 yards to a touchdown. So
Yeah.
Andy Reid is
Yeah.
smart enough. He'd say, "Well, I
He
have to
is.
design a new offense because I got Josh."
Exactly.
Right?
But they'd
Because
still get it done.
Mahomes is a ball handler, right? He's like a
Yep.
basketball player. He can do
He's
anything.
amazing.
He's
Yeah.
amazing. But Josh
Yeah.
Allen is a talent too. So Andy
He
Reid
is.
smart
He
enough.
is.
He would change his philosophy, but he would be just as
Yep.
successful.
Absolutely. I agree.
So and then I watched the game and thought, oh my God.
I know. It just happened. I know. I really was pulling
I
for the
mean,
Bills,
they're
even as a
having
lifelong
success
Patriot
running the
fan.
ball. They're having success with short passes, and all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, they say, "Oh, we gotta start throwing 40-yard passes that are
I know.
one complete.
Hero ball. They always divert to that. They just revert back down to
Oh, we
this,
gotta
like,
we gotta
gotta
throw
get it.
bombs." Like, what the fuck?
I know. I know.
It was terrible coaching. All right,
Yeah.
so what I realized, and it is that if there was a vacant spot near one of the arenas, and it had commercial tourism zoning, then we could put Melody Tent there.
Yeah, let me make a note of that.
So it doesn't
Commercial.
necessarily have to be right next to the stadium. A block away for a tailgate party doesn't matter. When I went to the Buffalo Bills, we paid for our parking spot to a church.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I've
was a
done that
very
plenty of
nice
times
church, and
too.
they had a beautiful
Yeah.
parking lot. But it was about three-quarters of a mile from the stadium. It didn't matter. I mean, tailgating went on for at least 2 miles. Um,
Right, right.
and you know, you had the minister out there taking the money. And what the hell?
That would change the model though slightly because now we're not really working with the stadium or the team really at all
No,
other than
I
getting
get
the
that, but you know,
tickets.
you could still buy
Yeah.
tickets. I
No,
mean,
no, but yeah, no, I agree. No,
I mean,
yeah, it just so in my
I'm not
mind
saying
conceptually. Yeah.
I'm not saying that's my preference.
No, but if we hit right,
I'm just saying
say
that
fallback.
that
Yeah.
it's your fallback position, right? That
Yep.
that
Yep.
certainly in Buffalo, it wouldn't matter. You know, they've
Yeah.
got lots of parking next to Orchard Park, but I don't want to do Melody Place in Buffalo. You might as well. I mean, it's even worse than Ottawa. It's got more snow than Ottawa.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's got
Yeah.
worse weather.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
One northern shelf city is enough.
So yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
the next one should be, you know, Miami
Yeah.
and Los Angeles, or, you know, I don't
Right.
know,
Right.
maybe,
Yeah. Exactly.
maybe Dallas, you know.
Dallas would be cool too. Um, well, just on that thought, let's say I get a high level meeting. How do I know? Because you'd want to be at least on the maybe initial
Yeah, it
few.
would be great to have you know, for a lot of these people, because they're so busy, they will do a Zoom or a Teams meeting or a WebEx meeting, right?
Well, right. Like, but just from your schedule, I know you're busy too. How would I know to maybe lock that in? Just
Well,
maybe send a few times or
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll just grab my calendar here. I am going to try and be less busy towards the second half of this year. You know, I am
okay.
72.
Yeah, of course.
So I am going to try and be less busy. Maybe by the end. Right now, it's impossible because I've got a lot of commitments, both personal and coaching commitments. But
Sure.
at the end of this year, I hope it'll be somewhat reduced. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, if there was somebody who would talk to us, I'll just block it off. You know, February 2nd, that's a Friday at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
I'll just put Chris O'Connell here. I'll just
Mhm.
put it down as a possibility. Oops, Chris O'Connell, question mark. So some Friday at 3 p.m. And you know, I have a nice slide deck that I can show, and
Yeah.
maybe the following Friday at 3 p.m. You could put that in as the 9th. You know, because Friday I generally don't try and do too much, and then
Okay,
put
so
in the
Fridays
6th
are pretty.
at 3 p.m. as well. So just put in those 3 Fridays. Maybe there'll be somebody you can reach out to and say, look, I've got, you know, we're working with the Sens, Ottawa Senators and the Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa to do a Melody Place and a Tailgate Village, and
Yeah.
Bruce and I would like to talk to you about maybe doing one at next to your
Yeah.
stadium or
Right.
arena if you have time.
Right.
And
No, that's
those are the
great.
3 times. Mostly Friday afternoons, people are kind of
Prefer.
winding down. So,
Yeah. 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 I like that.
and
Okay.
we would be on the call for not more than 60 minutes, not less than 30. So we would ask
Yes.
for
Yep.
30 minutes to 60 minutes of your time. 30 minutes is okay too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Because
Yeah.
the first presentation I did was on Zoom with Cyril,
Sure.
and
Yep.
you know, like I said, look, we're thinking about this idea, Tailgate Village, in a tent with some tiny homes. I think it'd be awesome, be cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, oh, I don't know. It took him a while to get the idea, and after about 20 minutes, he said, "Oh, I get it
Oh,
now.
I get it now. Yeah.
Oh,
Like
that's
this is
really
cool.
yeah, yeah, that might
Yeah.
work." So it probably
Wow.
takes
That's
about
cool.
20 minutes because most people, when they hear the idea, you and I got it right away.
Right. Yeah.
You got it
Yeah.
like because you know me.
Yeah.
But other people will be going, what tiny homes? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
In a certain
Yeah. Right. Right.
my parking lot? What the fuck for?
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. Well,
The one slide that
click
I
for
showed
just.
you where they're the Cleveland Browns are doing kind of a version of it.
Yeah. Right.
Remember that slide?
Where you show me that. Yeah.
Yeah, that helped.
Yeah. I
You know,
bet. To
it's
be
not a
like,
tiny
look.
home, but it's like a little bar basically, and you can go because Cleveland's pretty cool too, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
get
They have a fan
inside,
base. That's
let's say your company was there, you can get inside and serve people a drink and chat a little bit and then go to the game.
right.
But it's a
Right.
thousand
That's
bucks
it.
to rent that thing for 4 hours.
Yeah. Oh my. I remember you said that. That's when the cost. I was like, geez. Yeah. We're not going to be
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. And it's quite small. I don't know. I don't think you can get 8 people in there. You might get 6 in there.
Yeah. That's about it.
Well, 8 if you
Yeah.
were, prepared to sort of squish together and you're skinny
Squeeze
like.
in. Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
So see
Cool.
what you can do.
Yeah. Let me see what I
I
can do.
think if we could do 2 of them, one in Miami, one in Ottawa, we would prove the concept,
I was
obviously.
gonna say, yep. Yeah, hell
And
of a start.
I think we'd attract a lot of capital.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, yeah, let me get to work on some of this
And give
stuff.
my regards to Audrey and think that
Yeah.
ask her if she wants to help.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like it. I will.
All right.
And let me know how
Don't
the meeting
forget,
goes.
we'll see you one of these Fridays real soon.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Anyway,
it.
glad
All
to
right,
speak
Bruce.
to you, Chris.
Yeah.
All right, and I will send you the revised documents that we revised today. I did send
Yeah.
you the revised lease.
Yes. Lease. Yeah. We'll get that going.
Get that signed.
Absolutely. We'll get it done. Thanks, Bruce.